The plot summary begins 2 years after a major incident involving a corrupt network within the police. We are introduced to Areski, a French cop on the run who is living under the alias Joris in Germany with a woman named Mathilde. He is involved in drug running for a criminal organization. The opening scene establishes his dual life, a seemingly normal existence marred by the danger of his criminal activities. When his boss and associate of the kingpin Alexander Reese unexpectedly arrives, Areski is forced to accompany him on a delivery. During this trip, a fellow runner, Marco, is murdered. Areski realizes he is next and attempts to flee. He rushes back to Mathilde, who is deeply confused by the sudden danger and the discovery of his real identity and his old passport. The confrontation is interrupted by the arrival of the German criminals led by the man who was just with Areski. They reveal to Mathilde that Joris is actually Areski, a cop who has been using her. They are there on the orders of Alexander Reese, who is tying up loose ends. Areski manages to overpower his attackers, faking his own death. He instructs Mathilde to flee and escapes with a large bag of cash, but not before realizing his old enemy, the notorious prisoner Lino, is also dead at the hands of this network, or so he is led to believe. The scene shifts to a Spanish civil guard station where Lino is being held. He is brought before Alexander Reese, a high-ranking and deeply corrupt police commander who treats Lino with contempt, gloating about Lino's capture. Reese reveals his power and the extent of his corruption, enjoying Lino's apparent helplessness. However, the true nature of the events is soon revealed. Lino's capture was a necessary evil. The protagonist, Captain Julia, who seems to be in charge of an elite police brigade, confronts her colleague Alvaro, who explains that sacrificing Lino was the only way to save Areski. Areski's testimony, made possible by his deep cover work with Reese's network, is the true goal, and it will avenge this bastard's victims. It is implied that Areski has been working undercover for Julia and her team for 2 years, and Lino's capture was part of a larger plan to maintain the illusion that Reese is untouchable. As the dust settles, Reese's men come to retrieve Lino and the exchange is carried out. Before leaving, Lino warns the man who handed him over that if they ever meet again, he won't be as merciful. Back in her office, Julia is forced to resign for her unorthodox methods, which resulted in the deaths of 3 people, including a key witness, and nearly caused a diplomatic incident. Her superiors admit the need for secrecy was understandable, but emphasize her failure to provide direct proof or a living witness against Reese, who is now being hailed as a hero. Meanwhile, Lino is released and returns to France, learning the brigade has been disbanded. He visits his former colleague Julia to collect the remnants of his belongings. Julia is distant, having been hurt by his long absence and the secrecy of the operation. She tells him that everything is at a friend's garage. Lino meets Sarah at the garage, a vibrant mechanic who has preserved his and the brigade's cars and equipment. Sarah is full of energy and ideas, expressing her admiration for the defunct brigade's work. Lino is only interested in his beloved Renault R, a crucial piece of the brigade's equipment. Sarah confesses that she junked the car. Distraught, Lino insists on going to the junkyard to retrieve what he can. At the junkyard, Lino sees the destroyed car. Sarah then mentions that a man with German plates on a motorcycle visited the previous night to retrieve something from the wreck, a St. Christopher medal that had been hanging from the rearview mirror. Lino immediately realizes this was Areski. The German-plated motorcycle and an old Renault minivan the man bought at the junkyard allegedly for a family outing confirm his suspicions. Lino rushes to call his former partner Stella, warning her to grab her son Thomas and flee. Julia and the team mobilize, realizing Areski is in town to find his ex-wife and son. Areski arrives at Stella's house. He is desperate, demanding that Stella and Thomas flee with him, warning that they will kill him. Stella, hardened by his 2-year absence and deception, refuses to leave, but also refuses to turn him in, wanting to understand why he has returned. The tense confrontation is interrupted by the arrival of the police, forcing Areski to flee. A frantic chase ensues, with Lino driving a customized Alpine and pursuing Areski, who has stolen a police motorcycle. The pursuit tears through the city streets. Julia is not far behind, but Areski is a ghost, slippery and highly skilled. The chase culminates with Lino's car crashing, allowing Areski to slip away. Areski reappears briefly, using a diversion to force Julia to drop her gun. He tries to warn her that the people after him will kill her, but he is wounded and quickly escapes again. Lino is distraught but okay. Julia rushes to question Stella, who is safe. Stella confesses that she did not call the police because she wanted to see Areski, admitting she was not going to leave with him but wanted to understand why he came back, showing the complicated and unresolved emotions between her and the dangerous undercover cop. Areski remains at large, still a threat and still being hunted. The hunt is far from over. Stella, Areski's ex-wife, is in custody. She realizes the police will never believe her claim of innocence and that she will forever be labeled the cop killer's wife. Lino, unable to offer her meaningful help, is pushed away, the consequence of his decision to go to jail for Julia earlier in their careers. Julia is determined to find Areski, believing him to still be in the locked-down city. Alexander Reese and his lieutenant Cole discuss the situation. Reese admits to misjudging the Germans who claimed to have killed Areski. Cole is insistent that Areski's only remaining move will be to contact Julia. Areski does exactly that, meeting Julia at the scene of the previous murder of their colleague Charas. Areski is ready to stop running and offers his full testimony against Reese's entire operation in exchange for complete protection for himself and his family and no prison time. Julia is reluctant but realizes his testimony is her last chance to bring down Reese. Areski requests a deal identical to the one offered to the now-dead witness Marco. Julia agrees to the deal but refuses to take him to a precinct, fearing Reese would learn of it immediately and silence him. Instead, she plans to exfiltrate him by taking him to Germany, where Reese has no influence, for a handoff with the German police at the remote Flamel airfield. Julia decides not to involve Lino, fearing his involvement would jeopardize the plan, a sentiment Areski agrees with. However, Lino tracks down Julia and confronts her about Areski's deal. He is furious that Areski is getting away with murder and walking free. Julia convinces him that bringing down Reese is the only way to honor Charas. Lino hands his St. Christopher medal to Julia and agrees to stay away but covertly follows the plan. Julia seeks out Sarah the mechanic to prepare a vehicle for Areski's transport. Lino unexpectedly shows up, proving he did not leave town. He and Sarah quickly bond over a shared understanding of cars and teamwork. Lino and Sarah work overnight to prepare a heavy-duty reinforced tow truck to transport Areski, with Sarah making Lino promise her a place in the reformed brigade. Julia presents the plan to her superior, Captain Moss, who agrees to work with the German police, though not without making Areski wait in the truck's trunk. Areski refuses, forcing Julia to compromise and let him ride in the cabin as an advisor. Reese, meanwhile, is approached by another police official who presents him with Areski's deal terms signed by Moss. Reese realizes Areski is alive and is being exfiltrated. He confronts the official, who is revealed to be an ambitious woman leveraging Areski's capture for a position in the ministry. Reese agrees to her demands, and certain of the handoff locations summons his loyal but disgraced former Lieutenant Yuri and his two best response units to kill Areski and Julia. Julia drives Areski toward the German border, passing a police roadblock thanks to her credentials. She is unaware that the information on her route was fed to Reese. As they drive, Julia is contacted by Moss, who confirms the signed deal and asks for the final handoff location. Julia gives her the location of the North Roadblock, a lie designed to confuse Reese's team. Julia speeds toward the airfield. Reese's units, including a police helicopter, begin pursuing them. Suddenly, Lino appears in his heavily armored tow truck, ramming the police units and deliberately leading the helicopter away from Julia. He manages to disable the chopper in a spectacular explosive collision while Julia evades the other cars. Lino meets up with Julia, who takes over the driving of his vehicle. As they approach the airfield, Areski unexpectedly pulls a gun on Julia, revealing that the whole deal was a setup. Reese appears, revealing he was tipped off not by Moss but by Yuri, his new confidant. Reese had promised Yuri his old job back if he helped kill Areski. In a shocking betrayal, Reese reveals that the ambitious official he met earlier was also using him and he has killed her. Reese then turns the gun on Yuri, killing him to ensure total silence, proving no one is safe from his ruthlessness. Reese orders his remaining Lieutenant Cole to kill Julia and Areski and frame Areski for the murder of the German police and the mechanic Sarah, who had arrived at the airfield in the German plane. Julia, wearing a bulletproof vest Lino insisted she take, survives the shot. Lino, meanwhile, having witnessed the entire scene, rushes in, forcing Cole to turn his attention to him. Julia, injured but alive, urges Lino to pursue the fleeing Areski for Charas's sake. Lino manages to catch Areski on the tarmac. Areski tries to justify his actions, but Lino ignores him, knocking him unconscious and using a tow rope to tie him to the back of a police van that speeds away. Lino returns for Julia, who is safe. As Lino is arrested by arriving police, including his old colleague Cole, Julia is taken to the hospital. Areski tied to the back of the vehicle as justice for Charas is taken away. Julia is later seen at the police station, having finally ensured Reese is permanently removed. Lino, now out of jail again, returns to Sarah's garage, where she gives him a new St. Christopher medal. The film ends with Lino joining the newly reinstated brigade, with Sarah and his colleagues ready to face their new future. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.